Hi, I'm Hobie1. This is Red Share Reading. Today we are reading the Black Book of Secrets by F.E. Higgins, Chapter 39, Fragment from the Memoirs of Ludlow Fitch. Let's go. As soon as the crowd heard that Ratchet was dead, they had turned tail, one and all, and ran down the hill. Joe went straight through to the shop and began to beat out the flames with an old coat from the window. To be honest, it was more smoke than fire, and it didn't take long to put it out. Despite that, the damage was extensive. Everything was charred or blackened with smoke, and the acrid smell made breathing quite unpleasant. There was little worth saving. Gradually, the air was clearing due to the biting wind that now blew through the broken window and the shattered door. I helped him without knowing why. Eventually, Joe stamped out one last stubborn flame and rested, panting from the effort. "What a dreadful shame, so unnecessary," he murmured. "But I suppose it could have been worse. At least I still have this." He bent down and pulled the wooden leg, miraculously unharmed from the rubble, and went to the back room. When I looked in, he was dressed in cloak and scarf and struggling to force the leg into the satchel. Suddenly, everything was happening far too quickly. I was angry with Joe for the way he behaved, for the murder I was so sure he had committed, but I was frightened too, because he was leaving. "Is that it? You're just going to go?" "There's not much more I can do now," he said. "I have no reason to stay." "What about the shop?" "The shop is finished. We can start again somewhere else." He slung the bag over his shoulder and came through, stepping carefully over the wreckage on his way to the door. "You are coming with me?" How could he be so calm? My heart was racing. I hesitated. "I don't know if I can." "Oh." He sounded as if he hadn't considered this and frowned. "I thought you knew we couldn't stay here forever. Perhaps I should have said something before. My work compels me to move on." "It's not that," I said. "I would have gone anywhere with you, but—" I couldn't say it. I felt as if I was choking. We faced each other wordlessly until the silence was gently broken by a soft voice that made us both look up. It was Perigo. "Mr. Zabadow," she said. "Mr. Zabadow." She came through the remains of the door, and when she saw the destruction, she looked distraught. "I want to say sorry," she whispered. "Everyone wants to say sorry. We know we were wrong to treat you the way we did. We should have trusted you. It was the letter that frightened us all." "Ah," said Joe, "the letter." Perigo looked as if she was about to burst into tears. It was the oldest Sourdough boy who wrote the letter, blackmailing his own father to line his pockets. He found out that Elias had been to see you, and he knew we could blame you. Ruby found another letter he was going to send to Dr. Molderd. "Everyone feels terrible, Mr. Zabadow. You were right. All we had to do was wait a little longer. Are you a doctor, too? Did you know about his heart?" I could have laughed out loud. Now they thought Joe was a hero again. What was it that bothered me so much? Jeremiah had so many enemies. He was always going to meet a sticky end one way or the other. So did it really matter how? But I couldn't bear the thought that Joe was involved in such a wretched business. All those times I had worried about having sneaked a look in the black book. There were far greater sins being committed than that. "His heart," repeated Joe. "Yes, I suspected something was amiss with the fellow." Perigo's eyes went to the bag on his shoulder. Her eyelid flickered rapidly, and she blushed. Are you leaving?" "Indeed I am. I think Pagus Parvis can do without me now." A tear squeezed out of the corner of her eye, but she wiped it away quickly and sniffed. "Then I'm glad I caught you. I want to give you something." She handed over a small book. "It doesn't matter anymore. Now that Jeremiah's gone, too many bad memories. I mean, who cares about sheep?" Joe hesitated. "You do realize what this is worth, don't you?" Perigo nodded. "I couldn't take the money. You deserve it after all you've given us. If it is your wish, I accept." Joe tucked the book into his cloak, but not before I managed to catch the title. "The Loneliness of the High Mountain Shepherd." If this is interesting to you, please be sure to boop the like button. Thank you very much. And there's this, too. I nearly forgot. Dr. Molderd found it. I thought it might be important. She gave him a piece of paper, and he kissed her hand. Then she whispered goodbye and hurried away. You see, said Joe as he pocketed the folded page, inheritance. When I sell the book, the money will keep us going for many months. Inheritance? I scoffed. You mean you get your money from dead people? Joe smiled. I suppose that is close enough to the truth. People you have killed? I have never killed anyone for money. It is not in my nature. You'll be telling me next. It's against the rules. Joe sighed and put down his satchel. All these weeks you have been such a help to me, Ludlow, and I am immensely grateful. You have been honest and loyal, and I know it wasn't easy for you. But more than that, I had thought I saw something in you, something I have been seeking for years. That first night when I found you outside in the snow, you reminded me of myself when I was a young man, and I could see a future for you. That is why I want you to come with me. I have such hopes for your talent. I want us to continue to work together. I can show you the world. Tell me, why won't you come? Why not, indeed? Of course I wanted to go desperately. If he had asked a day ago, even hours ago, I would have had no hesitation. But now things were different. I wasn't sure he was the person I had thought him to be. I wasn't even sure who I was anymore. You could have a marvelous future, Ludlow. There is so much I could teach you. Like murder? At last I said it, and the relief was indescribable, as was the fear that came with it. Ah, he said, and his face lit up knowingly. I wondered when you would come out with it. Presumably you believe I murdered Jeremiah? I nodded slowly. Can you prove to me that you didn't? Began Joe, but then another voice hailed us from the shop door. It was Horatio, breathless and sweating from running up the hill. I had to come, he said, huffing and puffing, as he crashed through the debris. I have to tell you, Joe, before you go, I've done something terrible. It wasn't his heart. It was me that did it. I killed him. Joe took him by the arm and sat him down. What is it, Horatio? What do you think you have done? I killed Jeremiah Ratchett. I poisoned his pie and had Polly give it to him. I know I swore I'd never cook up such a dish again, but I just had to do something. Dr. Molderd said you weren't going to help us. I couldn't stand it anymore. Listen to me, said Joe. You mustn't blame yourself. What's done is done. Dr. Molderd said he had a heart attack, and it is best to accept that. Don't say anything about this to anyone, but make sure the remains of the pie are taken away in case someone else eats it. There are plenty of people who are hungry in Pagus Parvis. Are you sure, Mr. Zabadow? Horatio looked up with red-rimmed eyes. Certain. Just get rid of the pie before someone innocent comes to harm. I don't know how to thank you, Mr. Zabadow, said Horatio. I don't deserve your help. The pie, repeated Joe. The pie. Fetch the pie, Horatio. As soon as Horatio was gone, Joe put his hands on my shoulders and looked me straight in the eye. So, Ludlow, now do you trust me? I was speechless. I had been so certain. So you didn't do it, I stammered. I could hardly look at him. Can you forgive me? Then a terrible thought struck me. Do you still want me to come with you? Joe laughed. Ludlow, my dear fellow, of course I do. How could you possibly think otherwise? Come with me now, and I promise if you don't like what you see and think you cannot live with what you know, then you and I can go our separate ways, and our paths never need cross again. My heart swelled to bursting point with excitement, and I grinned so widely I could feel my skin stretching. I wasted no more time. I collected my purse from the fireplace and pulled my cloak tightly around me. But there was still something I had to say. I haven't always been honest with you, I began, but Joe shook his head. It'll keep, he said. Now we must go. We slipped out through the shattered door, carrying no more than what we had when we arrived in the village all those weeks ago. I looked over my shoulder, but the street was empty. A single light shone in Jeremiah's window, but other than that, the houses were dark, and we left as we came, unseen. That is the end of chapter 39. Thank you for joining me. Catch me again for chapter 40. Bye.